always have a support structure that you can rely on, having people that can always deliver, and at the very least, those that can show progress on a daily basis.
Kita adalah brand holder. Kita kena yakin dengan brand kita. So sebelum kita nak meyakinkan orang dengan brand kita, kita kena yakinkan diri kita dahulu. So macam mana? Ilmu, knowledge. Pergi belajar. Tak belajar, tak tahu. Saya buka syarikat saya sendiri sebab masa itu saya yakin masyarakat tak boleh bergerak tanpa motivasi.
புதுசாக வித்தியாசமாக நீங்கள் யோசித்து ஒரு மார்க்கெட்டில் டிமாண்டாக இருக்கிற ப்ராடக்ட்டை நீங்கள் கொண்டு வந்தீங்கன்னா பயணியராகவும் ஆகலாம். அதே சமயத்தில் மக்கள் திருப்பி வந்து உங்கள்கிட்ட வாங்கிட்டு இருப்பாங்க.
把你的生意放上网络平台。我朋友是做网络卖衣服的生意，他的生意是不断的在增长。我起步的时候是跟去银行贷款，所以他说我的规模也是太小，所以他是不接受我的贷款的。有一天我上网寻找贷款，等下过后就找到 SME， 过后我去 click 进去申请表格。第二天 CGC 的有一个顾问打来跟我说，你可以尝试用 P2P 的平台，过后就成功了。
The great thing about this whole CGC ISME program is that it's no collateral and you can go for as little as 1,000 ringgit to as much as 5 million. I went online and went to the page, registered, logged in and just keyed in my details, and from there within a matter of days things were already set in motion. So it's really that straightforward and that simple. I was able to get it within a matter of weeks. I think everyone can too.
IMSME ஃபண்ட் வந்து நாங்கள் வந்து அப்ளை பண்ணியிருந்தோம், எங்களுக்கு கிடச்சிச்சு. அது மூலிமா எங்கள் பிஸ்னஸையும் வந்து எக்ஸ்பெண்ட் பண்ணோம். 10% வந்து இன்க்ரீஸ் பண்ணோம் எங்கள் சேல்ஸை. இது மூலிமா IMSME ஃபண்ட் வந்து ரொம்ப உதவியாக இருந்துச்சு எங்களுக்கு.
Sebenarnya dalam business, fun is everything. You have fun, you can go bigger. You don't have fun, you cannot go anywhere. CGC banyak membantu saya untuk saya go and move further sebenarnya. Dan at the end, saya dah ada branch baru dekat Alustah selepas saya dapat dana daripada CGC. I have no fun problem at all after that. Jadi dengan IMSME memang banyak sangat ubah hidup saya dan banyak membantu mengembangkan bisnes saya.
感谢 IMSME 帮我的生意更上一层楼。
Need fast and reliable internet that allows you to fulfill orders smoothly? Ever thought of changing to a flexible internet plan that can cope with peak season demands and allows you to pay for only what you use? What if you could have a certified dedicated internet with high bandwidth to maximize operations and keep up with critical demands? Whatever your business needs to stay always on, we've got you covered with Fiber Solutions by Maxis Business. Put your business at an advantage with our MEF 3.0 certified core network and expert assistance, and gain complete control with a self-serve dashboard. Change to Fiber Solutions by Maxis Business today.
of small businesses are struggling during these tough times.
Can our economy rebound from all of this?
Grandma, it's not working.
If one way doesn't work, try another way.
We have what it takes to go global. With a diverse range of sectors, let Martrade take you there. Take a step towards being export ready. Get equipped with the information and skills you'll need. We'll match you with buyers worldwide and help you build connections for you to be a global champion, offering world-class products and services. Get ready to set the standards and go further. Make a difference, because trade matters. The world awaits you. The time to export is now.
business award, a networking platform, and an innovative community. For the past 11 years, SOBA has recognized more than 350 small and medium enterprises. Many are now leaders in their industry, and some have even grown to become public listed companies. Be a part of SOBA and show us that you have got what it takes to be the best of the best.
For the 7th consecutive year, CGC is honored to participate in SOBA 2021. SOBA's role in encouraging and recognizing SMEs' contribution towards building a stronger and more resilient economy is well aligned with our mandate. 2020 was a year like no other, and we were honored to have played our role in assisting SMEs to navigate through it. CGC remains committed to provide assistance to SMEs so that we all can keep our dreams alive, bounce back together, stronger than ever.
At Maxis, we are inspired by business who use technology to create meaningful outcomes for their customers. This is aligned with Maxis' brand purpose, to bring the best of technology to enable people, business and nation to always be ahead in the fast-changing world. We are committed to be a partner to SME and enterprise in their digitalization journey and also play a key role in the nation's digital agenda. We are delighted to be partnering SOBA for this purpose and look forward to be recognizing up-and-coming personality and business and their contribution to Malaysia economy.
Branding is very important for a company. In 2010, PKT decided to participate in awards to brand ourselves. So we participated in the Star Outstanding Business Award. We didn't win big during that time. We got 3 minor awards, but we know how and what is required to win awards. And we came back the following year to win 5 awards from the Star Outstanding Business Awards. And we have grown our business ever since then, leaps and bounds, and now we are back here to sponsor the Star Outstanding Business Awards because we believe with branding, you can scale your business to another level. So see you at the SOBA 2021.
RHB is really excited to partner SOBA for the 4th year running. We are confident that SMEs can lead the building back of a strong Malaysian economy, and SOBA can provide that great opportunity for businesses to come together to share, learn and be nurtured by the very best in industry. We have worked with some really great companies through the years, and we look forward to journeying with many more.
Madrid is delighted to participate in SOBA 2021 as the official trade promotion agency. SOBA plays an essential role in acknowledging SMEs' achievements and contributions to the Malaysian economy, and we take pride in being a part of it for the 6th consecutive year. As a national trade promotion agency, Madrid would like to encourage SMEs to participate in SOBA to gain useful insight and tap the minds of experts in trade. At SOBA, you will obtain the support from pivotal parties to ensure SMEs' strong presence within the export sector.
SOBA 2021.
SOBA 2021.
SOBA 2021.
SOBA Star Outstanding Business Award 2021.
SOBA 2021.
SOBA 2021.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Right on time. Good afternoon and thanks for tuning in. And welcome to the SOBA Lab webinar #SOS Save Our SMEs. How Budget 2022 can drive your business forward. That's the topic of our conversation that we're having today. And we hope you and your loved ones are staying safe, healthy despite the global pandemic. I understand it's the Deepavali holiday still, and many have taken the opportunity to visit loved ones. So please observe SOP for the sake of your loved ones. So whether you're joining us via Zoom, Facebook or YouTube, wherever you are, we'd like to thank you for joining us. I'm Nazruddin Rahman, your virtual host for today. And Star Media Group is delighted to welcome Credit Guarantee Corporation Malaysia Berhad, or CGC, Maxis, PKT Logistics Group Sdn Berhad, and RHB Bank Berhad as our main sponsors. Thank you, and we are very excited to have all the heavyweights on board with us, and we hope that this great working partnership will continue. Long may it continue for many years to come. And so as we count down to the Star Outstanding Business Awards 2021, here are the series of webinars that we all can learn from. And so a big thank you to the official trade promotion partner Medtrade, supporting MAICCI and Bursa Malaysia. Not forgetting Auditor BDO, official media partner 988, as well as Surya. We are grateful for your expert advice, guidance, and support throughout the awards process. And not forgetting our strategic partners from the various business organizations and associations. We thank you for your time, commitment in building a knowledgeable workforce, a responsible community, and a progressive society. We also like to thank SendQuick, our mobile messaging partner. Ladies and gentlemen, SOBA recognizes the important role of local businesses and what they do towards building our nation, and encourages businesses to achieve new milestones and push the boundaries in achieving greater heights. And along that note, this year's SOBA Lab stands for Learn, Aspire, Build, and is organized by a series of webinars addressing valuable business insights. To learn more about SOBA online applications, you may scan the QR code on the top right of your screen or visit www.soba.com.my on how you can apply your business for the competition this year. We will kickstart the opening session today by addressing the topic of discussion, how Budget 2022 can drive your business forward. So if you have any questions for our speakers, for Zoom viewers, you may post it in the Q&A box. And for viewers on Facebook and YouTube, please do post in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you and answer as many as possible. Last and most importantly, please remember to learn, aspire, and build. Ladies and gentlemen, our first session will consist of our panelists Jenny Ho, Vice President of SME Advisory and Marketing, Credit Guarantee Corporation Malaysia Berhad or CGC. Jenny's collaborative nature and depth in advisory stems from the constant engagements with customers across industries, from domestic and global markets. This enables her to provide insights that is crucial to derive customer-focused marketing frameworks, product profitability management, and effective digital adoption strategies for business. Our second panelist, let's introduce Mr. Yip Hao Nang, Head of SME Banking, RHB Bank Berhad. Mr. Yip Hao Nang is the Head of SME Banking and RHB Bank Berhad, as mentioned, and his main responsibility is to focus on the growth of small and medium enterprises. And Mr. Yip Hao Nang has more than a decade's worth of experience in various capacities within SME banking. Our third and final panelist for session 1 is Yang Berbahagia Datuk Dr. A.T. Kumararajah, Secretary General of MAICCI. Now, Dr. Kumar was a JPA scholar and worked with the Ministry of Health from the time of qualification in 1998 for 10 years. That was followed by a 2-year stint with the multinational pharmaceutical company Sanofi Aventis as their medical advisor. He has also served as the Honorable Secretary General for the Malaysian Associated Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we shall be onboarding our panelists on our platform. It will take about 10 to 15 seconds. Do not go away. Please stay in your seats. Make sure you have your cup of coffee. And we'll be starting session 1 very, very soon. Please stay with us. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience. And yes, our 3 panelists are on standby right now. Please, presenting to all of you Yang berbahagia Datuk Dr. A.T. Kumararajah from MAICCI. We've got Ms. Jenny Ho from CGC and Mr. Yip Hao Nang, RHB Bank Berhad. If you can hear me clearly, let's give me a thumbs up and say yes, dear panelists. Excellent. Everybody's looking well, and thank you for joining us in our session. So let's start the ball rolling. We're going to go straight into the meat of the situation. Let's take a look at the budget highlights that are pertinent to industries and SMEs. Of course, we go into the personal taxes and so on and so forth. We'll be here till late night. And so let's start with the fact that 332.1 billion allocated under budget 2022, the highest allocation compared with previous budgets. 233 billion for operating expenditure and 75.6 billion for development expenditure under budget 2022, and that's what we're going to be looking at. Now, many people have said we've had 1 week to take in budget 2022, and it's mostly people have commented as it's a rakyat-centric budget. So, but what about SMEs? So this is the question that will be posed to all our panelists. The general focus is digitalization and ESGs driven mindset in an era of post-pandemic recovery. But does it really assess the issues faced by entrepreneurs with their backs to the wall post-pandemic? This is what we're going to find out. So the next premise that we'll share for the benefit of our audience as well. SMEs in Malaysia shape about 98.5% of all businesses in this country and contributes 40% of our national GDP. And I think Dr. ATK has shared in his articles before that 70% of GDP is domestic driven. So I'm going to begin with a very simple question. Are you happy with budget 2022? Let's start with Dr. ATK.
Hi, Nas. Right. Good. Thanks for having me. I think when you ask me this question, I'm sure I, as a person, definitely I'm happy. As an SME, certainly I think the government could have done better because there are areas which has not been addressed. But I think if you look at it from a Malaysian perspective or a Rakyat perspective, I think every part has been touched, albeit some depth differences between those parts. But I think most parts have been touched, and most SMEs, give or take, are happy. It's just that certain areas certainly needs to improve in terms of focus, in terms of the narrative being a lot more clear for us to move from a pandemic to an endemic stage and to actually anchor that growth story. That's really not there. And especially from a SME perspective, I'm really not sure, despite all the efforts of the government, whether we can take off 2022 in the kind of speed that's organically needed in terms of what the budget needs to provide that impetus.
Now that's going to open up a lot of conversations, Doctor. So hang on to your seats. Let's ask Jenny from CGC. What are your thoughts?
Thanks, Nas. I think firstly, as an overall, though I do not own a business myself, but we deal with a lot of SMEs and we actually speak to them very often. Yeah, I think as all of us can see in the headline, being the highest value compared to previous budgets, definitely it will spur the economy. And I think I would like to choose to think of it as a positive news than it's not a positive news. More importantly, I think highlighted by the government is that SME sector employs 70% of the country's workforce. And I think there are a lot of perks, within the budget assisting people to get employed. Let's get to very basic, getting employed is not yet talking about very big, but then, at least you get a job first, right? And then I think that as what the government highlighted as well, we will foresee a GDP of 5.5 to 6.5%. And I think what's most important now is to address lesser social issues. Because those are the ground, to things, Yeah, but I think coming back to SMEs, right? How do we translate it? I'm of the view that in businesses, right, SMEs are to plan for their own resources and capacity, right? When it comes to budget, it's how you capitalize on the government initiatives, right, and treat it as an added advantage.
Absolutely. We'll go through down the line one by one. What can actually be helpful to SMEs? We'll open up the story in just a bit. Meanwhile, from the banking sector, of course, we have from RHB Bank Berhad, Mr. Yip Hao Nang. From a banker's perspective, how is Budget 2022?
Yeah. Hi, Nas. I think definitely has been a bumpy road so far for 2021. But the good news is our in-house economists actually forecast it still point to a very sharp economic rebound for the year. So our GDP most likely will still end at about 4%. That will be a very stark contrast compared to last year when we actually registered negative 5.6%. So there are a lot of opportunity and upside for us to capture, not just next year within the budget, or even the balance and the remaining of the year. I do think that the OPR will remain unchanged at 1.75 for the rest of the year. Most likely, if there's any upward adjustment, it will probably only happen in the year 2020, probably the second half of 2020. So I think in that sense, the interest rate is largely very accommodative, and alongside with whatever that has already announced in budget 2022, with the various financial measure that is being rolled out to support the economy, I do think that this is quite a encouraging one.
Well, it just seems that the banking sector does have a different opinion of what the projections are coming in from budget 2022 in terms of GDP. But it's all right. I mean, let's talk about a reality check. That's what these platforms are for. And so, as we connect the dots, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go a little bit unconventional. Instead of asking questions one by one, we're going to have a conversation. And from this conversation, we hope that entrepreneurs will pick up certain points to show them the way forward, shine a little bit of light. It is after Deepavali after all. And so we're going to start again with Datuk Dr. ATK. Now, of course, representing MAICCI, you are very, very close to the SMEs, from small, micro, the medium enterprises as well. What are the biggest problems that you often hear?
Nas, I think the problems as far as the top topics that the SMEs face, regardless of pre-pandemic or post-pandemic, is just that huge disruption that has happened in the last 20 months has either accelerated their problems to a level where they actually cannot manage, or some of them have been a very selective few, obviously been able to pivot out into either new business models or digitalization, which has actually enabled them to survive. But the primary issues of access to credit still remains an issue as far as SMEs, especially the micro. What we have actually, one thing that the pandemic has done is change terminologies. We are now more used to using the word MSMEs. So the MSMEs actually now have sheer issue as far as access to credit. I'll come to you back on details of that. But I think they're also suffering some sort of cash flow issues, which while 20 months, so if an SME is still standing today, it's only because that guy has survived the last 20 months using cash reserves or borrowings or friends or family, but eventually he has to recoup what he has lost over the last 20 months. So that recouping needs to happen. So that positive cash flow, unfortunately, while you see businesses rebounding, it's not going to happen in the immediate term. It's going to take some time before positive cash flow comes back on board. Third, I think completely certain business models, certain engagements have actually completely restructured the way businesses, especially the MSMEs, interact with consumers. And that consumer confidence, we see it coming back in the fourth quarter this year. Hope that can actually translate to 2022 full year. Mind you, with what Yip and Jenny mentioned in terms of our economic recovery, yes, we see it. But which sectors are actually driving this, right? So I could actually forecast and say, look, the export sectors certainly are driving the market, right? So they're at 19.5% growth, and I actually put some of our local houses, MIDF, I'm not sure about RHB, but I'm sure all of them actually tweak their growth numbers upwards just based on the export numbers. But domestically, are people starting to invest? Am I very confident on 2022? Not yet. I come back to access to financing. We have two financiers as my co-panelists. So as much as I say I'm on friendly turf here. You look at all the benefits that government has said, right? So 8 economic stimulus packages, I call them rescue packages because there cannot be stimulus when you are holding on to the brakes and you cannot press the accelerator at the same time. So I would think of that 8 as
Relief.
Rescue packages, 530 billion onwards. But if you look at the numbers that Laksana has produced, only about 38,000 companies, mind you, both micro and SMEs have benefited in the region of about $12.5 billion across this last 20 months, despite all the best efforts of the government and the agencies to make this happen. Why? Because the financial institutions, DFI and commercial institutions, are actually not having any different approach to the credit risk of the customer. In this case, as SMEs, they're still looking at cash flow, ability to pay, your credit history. All this is irrelevant in the pandemic phase. So I personally think that what we as a business community, especially the chambers of commerce, across all the chambers of commerce, we actually put forward to the government an avenue to say, look, why not you address this in a very different way? The way we brought in Dana Harta, Dana Jamin in 2007, 2008, why can't we do something similar? While that I think largely has been unaddressed, we have, I can see like numbers like $40 billion in Smarak Niaga and about $14.5 billion, which is about 36% of that, towards SMEs, and 1.8 billion of that is actually towards microcredit financing schemes. Saying all that, another thing that has not been taken into account into this budget or even the 12th Malaysia plan, I find it quite amusing, to must say, because everybody has still used the 1 million number or 904,000, which was the last published number of SMEs, not taking into reality today that we have actually about 30% of the SMEs actually don't exist anymore. These guys who have built the businesses over the years, doesn't matter they were young entrepreneurs or young enterprises or they built the businesses for the last 30 years, 30% of them are actually completely shut down. They are permanently not there in the landscape. And how is it that we are expecting the SMEs to grow? Mind you, again, another number, it is only in 2020 for the very first time in our history that we actually had the SMEs grow lesser than the market itself, than the GDP growth, so that is the first time where SMEs, because their resilience, their capacity is all very much limited. As much as we have got high potential SMEs, a large number of them are still struggling to come in terms of the market. And that's something that the 2022 budget, despite best efforts of the government, has not addressed. That's my viewpoint.
Thank you very much for highlighting that very, very important statistic. Yeah. So while 98.5% of businesses in Malaysia, SMEs, of course, neglected to mention it, 30% of them post-pandemic or at this point in time have shut down. Now, I wanted to touch also on what you mentioned earlier, which sectors are driving the market post-pandemic. Of course, not all companies are the top gloves and such who are capitalizing on the pandemic at this point in time. But when you mention credit evaluation as well, so of course, what thing SMEs really need right now is cash. Their cash flows are disrupted and there's no way out for them, as you've mentioned earlier. So now we move on to CGC. Do you see this this scenario that's been painted by Datuk Dr. ATK? How true is it, and what's the point of view of the CGC? Jenny.
Right. Thank you. I think my point of view is that firstly, I want to express my empathy. It's not easy to be an SME, and when you undergo such a crisis, even we at the corporate, actually in CGC, because when there are crises that happens, we get busier because that's where we need to help. And I can tell that, even at corporate level, we were hit by something that we didn't expect it to happen, which is the volume of assistance coming to us. And I think it's a matter of thinking quickly, and I like to use the word pivoting, because in CGC, right, yes, we are assisting customers to get financing or access to financing, but just a few years before this pandemic, we have thought about doing our business differently, right? Other than just coming out a product is just a product. It will have its criteria, it will have its profit rate or interest rate. But I think what's important is that we still realize people are still not getting financing even before the pandemic. And we have set up our advisory team, right? And I'm happy to say that, of course, I can't help 100% of them, but there are certain of them who we have actually matched them with alternate financiers, for example. I mean, RHB, obviously Nang here is also my main partner in terms of banking, but we also refer to alternate financiers, right? Not only that, just to add on, we have programs to help customers to gain market access. We teach them and prepare them. So before pandemic, they've been attending e-commerce workshop, digital marketing workshop. So when the pandemic come, we felt that, thank goodness we did that, and at least some of them are more open-minded now. And because we dealt with very small customers, they are micro in size. For them to get digitalization is actually very fearful. They are fearful, and they thought that's costly, and with all this stigma in their mind, it's hard to move on. But because we open up their mind, and when they hit us, that's when we felt that luckily we did that. So to answer to this, right, it's all the journey that we are prepared. And I think at the same time, some of our SMEs actually, personally thank us and say that thanks for our assistance, they were able to pivot. And some of them now even have 2 revenue streams. And I'd like to say that do not treat the pivot business as an interim. Learn it, do it, and try to keep it ongoing. We never know. I mean, touch wood. We are pre-planning for touch wood, another, we don't know.
Oh my goodness, there is a green screen right here. I kind of finding it difficult to find any wood to touch, but I get what you mean, Jenny. I get extremely get what you mean. But moving on to the fact that many of the micro and small business owners, I think fear is the mind killer right here. Yeah, you are usually fearful of something you're ignorant of. So thank you, CGC, for highlighting this. I do want to highlight the fact that Dr. ATK did say the issue is also in terms of the evaluation, the credit evaluation itself. So this one, I'm going to let Mr. Yip Hao Nang answer. But before that, what is RHB Bank's stand on budget 2022? And also, then we move forward into how difficult is it for SMEs. I say difficult because it's not easy. Yeah, Mr. Yip. So the table is yours. The floor is yours.
So I think Dr. MK actually strike a very, very right note. Everybody wants to know whether the bank can come up with a new way in evaluating all the credit application. I'm not speaking on behalf of my fellow colleague in the industry, but it is very, very important that, especially in crisis time, we find an alternative way in evaluating the customer, not just based on their financial. Because if audited account is all I want to look at, 2020 is gonna be a very, very lousy year, not for just SME,
exactly,
mostly for all the businesses, right? So the bank has been slow, in my opinion, in adopting to the new environment. I must say that I think RHB, we ourselves, we have already figured that out even before the crisis. We now today have an ability to judge and gauge the financial flexibility of a particular borrower, even without looking at their financial. And of course, that's our own secret lah. We actually rely a lot on the data that we collect on our borrower or our potential borrower to make that credit decision. And at times, we also work together with our partner. This can be a shopping mall. This can be a particular supplier of building material, and we will use their insight, to facilitate our credit decision. So gone were the days when all I want to look at as a banker is your financial and your audited account.
All right. I really hope it's not just lip service from RHB Bank, honestly, because as an entrepreneur, I've gone to managers, different banks, and mostly it's, your business not making money, how are we going to give you money? And I'm taking a look at all the pre-questions coming in before this session. We already got about 300 questions here, and I think 1/3 of them is, how do I get financing or help if the banks won't help me, at this point in time? And I understand. I mean, from the bank's point of view as well, it is a pandemic. Data is really hard to come by. And of course, looking at the fact that you want to help businesses with no hope of surviving simply because of their business model. So this comes back to, I think, what RHB? Does RHB have any packages in terms of educating the entrepreneur, just like how CGC has their own particular programs?
Yeah, we do. In fact, we run our digital workshop specifically for our so-called SME solution on a regular basis. Even during the MCO period, we continue to do that via Zoom as well. So I think these are some of the training or even education is probably not the right word. This is where we actually wanted to share our knowledge and experience with our customer, including our borrower.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. So I do understand that RHB is doing their very best to educate the entrepreneur, because I think that's the most important aspect right here. So I understand Jenny has been facing an increase of people asking for help. Just maybe for statistics purposes, what's the increase in percentage, Jenny?
I think inquiry-wise, I have this calculation. Calls coming to our call center is 13 times more.
13 times more.
During the first phase of, about 18 months ago. Yeah. So that is on inquiries alone.
Inquiries alone. And I'm assuming these are industries that are most affected by the pandemic, such as tourism, F&B.
Actually, to be surprised is various. And that's where we were also quickly, having to do our business model a bit differently to basically assist the inquiries.
Very good, very good. Okay, so we're going to move back to the SME point of view. So back to Dr. ATK. So we're taking a look at the budget right now. There are quite a few perks for certain industries. For example, 1.7 billion incentives and subsidies for farming and fisheries, 1.5 billion for seeds and fertilizer, income tax exemptions for organizers of artistic and cultural activities, so the events industry. We talk about sports competitions as well, international level recreational activities to be extended until 2025. So it's a shot in the arm for these guys to continue on their business. What are your thoughts on that? Especially the tourism section has been given a lot of privilege in budget 2022. Would you like to elaborate, sir?
Nas, the other thing, right? So again, we are obviously mentioning what's mentioned in the budget. As an example of, say, some of the industries which has been mentioned again. You say somebody says, look, F&B is not mentioned. So whatever the F&B guy is supposed to do. I had this discussion 2 days ago with somebody and says, look, F&B, are we supposed to close shop or what? But you say, let's look at tourism, right? So I think that's a very rightful thing, because there is one industry which is first in, last out. From that time, they went into that recession phase or kind of a slowdown phase in December, from the time the problem started in Wuhan, not in March 18th when we actually had our first shutdown. So they were suffering 3 months ahead of everybody else. And until today, except for the rooms that are fully booked out and everywhere else, I was trying to go out, leave town, and I've obviously not been able to. That has not really made totally that industry up there, because they actually contribute about $250 billion to the GDP, and number 3 highest contributor, about 15% indirectly. And with about 3.6 million workers, another 30% of those workers are actually out of jobs permanently now, and they are the ones who are adding up to about 4.5% people who are out of jobs. So that tourism industry, I think the government has taken a very good approach. One, they have made that targeted wage subsidy program for 6 months for those who have suffered 30% less in income. That's a very good move. Hopefully another good move, since we have 2 bankers with us, is the newer approach, the Penjana Tourism Fund. And I can say, I'll probably use Penjana Tourism Fund as a simple example, right? So the intention of the Penjana Tourism Fund was good, that they wanted to revitalize and hope that these tourism industries guys don't bleed. But if you look at the Laksana report, it actually tells you, out of this, first they allocated 1 billion, then they brought it down to $600 million, doesn't matter. They have about 630 odd applications. Only 300 of that has been approved, so 50% approval rates. And of that 300 plus which have been approved, only about 61 million ringgit has been dispersed, which is about 11% of the total available funds. So if we look at it purely from a numbers perspective, that's not very convincing to say that this actions by the government with good intentions really reverberate at the market level, because only 300 players with 600% target market, 11% of that in an industry which has suffered the most, with what Mr. Yip mentioned just now as in the intention of I don't know whether it's institutional, but at least he as an individual has been able to address it in a very different way. Jenny came across as very genuine. But if you look at the 13 times increase in the response that people have made to their call center, why is it that only we have 11% disbursement in an industry where they're supposed to have done it better? I personally think one is the failure in the system. Again, they're still using pre-pandemic approach in terms of evaluation. Two, I think it's also a failure, because why not we look at it as a wartime kind of an effort? Why not we bring it under one single institution be able to actually pick up that risk, which can be guaranteed by the government. After all, the government has come forth this time around to say, look, I'm going to protect under the SJPP scheme. I'm also going to set up another $3 billion for the listed companies for capitalization or recapitalization. Why not they step in to say certain industries, that risk mitigation we can do, but we put it under a single institution. We did it in Dana Harta, Dana Jamin. Why not we extrapolate that experience and expertise that it is still within the market? That's where we have failed, Nas.
That's an excellent proposition right there. And of course, we do have RHB Bank right here. Sorry to put you in the hot seat, Nang. But of course, this is the forum where, of course, we'd like to highlight as much as possible for the benefit of the entrepreneurs out there. So yes, evaluation, it does come back to that. And I think you've explained it quite a little bit. And also the programs that you do to guide the entrepreneurs. So before I go to Jenny, maybe I'd like to ask the bank's perspective, because again, the questions coming in, and also Jenny also sharing that perspective, 13 times increase in terms of calls coming in, but the disbursement is yet another matter. So maybe share with us some case studies that you've received. I know there's some horror stories where entrepreneurs come in to see the manager and go, I need money for this one. I want to make this, I want to make that, I want to export to India, Australia, whatever. So where's the business plan? Oh, I don't have one. Where's the cash flow plan? I don't have one. So maybe share with us some horror stories for perspective. Mr. Nang?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were trying to ask Jenny.
No. That's for you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe I'll just share some of our experience, lah. I think especially when it comes to loan, you don't know you know it until you have holes to fill. So I remember very, very clearly when SRF was first introduced in February of 2020. There are a lot of businessmen who still think that despite all the ongoings in countries like China, we will be shielded from pandemic. So when the government actually rolled out SRF, we were one of the first one to participate, and in fact we were one of the first one who got the first case in the country approved in the e-first system. And that particular customer got the fund in the month of February itself. And guess what industry they are in? They're into tourism industry. And I remember we wanted to do an interview with the customer, knowing that this is probably one of the most affected industry going forward. And the customer actually told us that he doesn't need the money, not knowing what's going to come in the next 18 months.
Didn't need the money?
Yes, they actually told us they don't need the money and they don't want to be interviewed.
Wow.
So I think when things started to deteriorate, and then they finally realized that it was actually the best decision that they've ever made. And despite what we see that what's going to happen to the tourism industry, we continue to provide them with the support, and we went in first. So I think so I think that's the story that I can share with you.
Do the banks actually facilitate the government grants that are offered, especially for budget 2022?
Yeah, we do. I think especially all the Bank Negara driven fund, As a commercial bank, as a GLC commercial bank, we are always the biggest supporter lah. In fact, I think for RHB, we have disbursed more than 1.1 billion in SRF, and we will continue to do so for all the ongoing Bank Negara funded scheme.
Excellent, excellent. Now we move on to Jenny from CGC. So I understand Mr. Nang has shared one particular case study. Do you see that same trend happening in CGC as well? People coming in, why aren't you giving me money? Some people are actually confused as to what CGC actually does. And so they're like, I want money. Why can't you give me money? And then the next on the criteria, I just had a roundtable with many entrepreneurs. That's when I realized not many people actually know where to go and what to do. Do you see that same trend happening, Jenny?
All right. I think first of all, just a disclaimer on the 13 times higher calls, right? That is at the peak, when it immediately happened. Of course, it tapers down, and we also realize from the calls, inquiries through our branches, customers coming to us, I think they are just being quite worried that they cannot, uncertainties, there are a lot of uncertainties, during the period of March last year. And I think I have to agree with Nang that some customers, they could have put up the application, right? But when we speak to them, because we do one-on-one advisory, and they actually say, it's okay, I don't need the money now. I just want to find out, right? So there are such cases. There are people who are more concerned about what do they do now in the interim. That's where, as I mentioned, that's how we studied and realized that they needed pivoting. And if they have been in tourism business, we have a few customers actually. Some are, overseas tour operators. Some are just, local SMEs doing water rafting, right? So what do they do? And they needed ideas to help them to pivot.
And this is something I'm really glad of, because many people view CGC, when they say CGC, or we're just supposed to go to them if we need help to repay our loans, restructure them, put them into cash flow, and so on and so forth, but to actually encourage businesses to pivot. So can you tell us a bit more about those particular programs? Are they under MAICCI or Khidmat Nasihat Pembiayaan?
Yeah, partially, but it's more holistic beyond that. I don't mind sharing, and I'm happy to share, because the more I share, I think more SMEs will be clearer to what we do and what they can come to us for assistance. I think back almost 50 years ago, we are going to be 50 years old next year. We have been always guaranteeing. So many people know us for that. I think that's it's not a surprise, but we also started to do some form of direct financing, right? And again, I want to emphasize that we never compete with our banking partners, but we complement them. So for example, if they are not doing startups, right, we come up and do a program for startups segment. And eventually, we also came up with what we call ourselves Beyond Guarantee, right? What are these? These are initiatives, as I mentioned before, about 5-6 years ago. We anticipated that it's not just about coming up with product, funding, and all this, right? But what happens to those who fail? How do you close the gap? We can't close 100%, but we keep on coming out with innovative ideas to see if we could close a bit more and a bit more. So the program is actually CGC developmental program. Comes in two forms: financial advisory. Clearly, got to do with even customers who can actually tell us they can't differentiate annual income and a monthly income. So therefore, they are not aware how to calculate the SR. I mean, we as bankers, Datuk, he's an experienced entrepreneur. Some SMEs are just not aware of all this. So we guide them, right? So we understand that it's not just about that, but a lot of them come with a weak business plan. Weak business plan is one of the reasons they don't get financing. Like, you can't even project what you're doing. Your business plan is just not solid. So we have this other side of the advisory that assists them with pivoting, marketing.
So it's safe to say that both CGC and commercial banks such as RHB, I think one of the biggest challenges to overcome is to reassure the entrepreneur, educate the entrepreneur as well, because an entrepreneur in fear usually does not make good decisions. So at this point in time, with the services that CGC is offering, I do suggest entrepreneurs out there who are watching and listening, do find out more. I got many questions here asking what particular clause or policy in budget 2022 that can help me specifically? No, this is not a forum where we can highlight them one by one because there's so diverse industries and we simply cannot answer that kind of question. So I do encourage entrepreneurs out there to go through the budget 2022 and also, I mean, you can read the summarized version and find out what are the funds that are specified for you. Once you've already sort of shortlisted them, then go to the banks, then go to the CGC in terms of building confidence. They want to help you also, at least, you know, you've done your homework of sorts. Well, what do you guys think?
If Nas, if I could just add to that, I think one of the best things that has happened actually post this budget is that Ministry of Finance has developed this portal, right? So if you go to the Ministry of Finance portal, actually a very nice portal. You know, I played over it over the last couple of days. You actually can go and say there are about 5 or 6 initiatives for access to financings, to grants, to digitalization efforts. So if you really want to know what exactly is inside there, you can go click on it and then drop down menu, and from there you can actually get to the individual websites or individual programs which has been mentioned in the budget. So it's a very good starting point.
Thank you. And all you need is to Google it.
So the portal is a very good starting point.
Excellent. So hopefully entrepreneurs have been taking note of that. Know your options and plan your work, then work your plan. I would like to go to Jenny to sort of wrap up something she spoke about earlier. You said government grants or budgets are additional, but it's the entrepreneurs themselves who don't seem to be ready. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I'm not commenting that all of them are not ready. But I think to start off a business, the first thing is not to look for the grant first, but to really ask ourselves, what business is this that we are doing? Does it have a unique selling point? Am I clear of my target segment? What's my capacity? Do I want to do it small, medium, big, or I plan to start small, but over a certain years, tentatively I'm going to do something like that, and I know I'm going to run with minimum fund without borrowing, for example, or I can borrow a minimum, you know. So for example, but when the government funds come along, let me share an example. Maybe I shouldn't speak on my own self because let's use an SME as an example. We met this SME of ours in CGC where she was planning to go e-commerce before the pandemic. So she came to us and we had a conversation, and she realized that, hey, I didn't know CGC does this. You know, as usual, people don't really exactly know, oh, you have such things. So networking, talking to people will actually let you, you know, find out more opportunities. So they found out, and then under our program, we have assisted her. So with that, assisting on e-commerce, she had saved her time and money or cost, right, to go onto e-commerce. She used that to enable her website building. Right? Yeah.
There you go.
So when she did that, I think the chances of success is much higher because selling on e-commerce, if people do not know your brand, it's just a platform to sell. But you need to have a website so that when they customers search for your brand, it is actually somewhere, you know, bloggers, reviews, and things like that. So what I'm trying to say is that she came across what we have been able to assist her, and she was able to save the time and cost to build a website that has elevated her chance of success.
Excellent. So with CGC and commercial banks like RHB Bank Berhad ready to help entrepreneurs, not just monetary wise, but also in terms of knowledge, how to bring your business forward post-pandemic. Now we're running out of time right here. We're going to go to a Q&A session, but just quickly to touch, So this is one point I wanted to raise, which is the budget 2022 is the perspective is moving more towards ESGs, So government will be allocating 1 billion towards assisting SMEs in adopting sustainable and low carbon practices, as ESG is the direction. Are banks as well as CGC ready to take up this challenge? So maybe Jenny first.
All right, I think the details I understand is being detailed out. So we do not know yet how it works. But I think this is really a favorite question that I love to touch upon personally. But because we are running out of time, I just want to cut it short that, to create awareness of this ESG, a lot of people come to their mind is that, oh, it's going to be costly. I have to invest in capex. Everything's going to be more expensive. But that is short term. Think about the long term. Think about ourselves as a business, right? How the impact will come back to us in nature is that, imagine if we don't do this, we don't save the earth. I give one example, flooding. How is flooding going to help you lose business? Imagine if we don't stop flooding, and it could cause us a business closure for 2 months. The worst is when your premise is being destroyed, there's cost to rebuild. So my point of view is that there's a lot of awareness required under this. I can't comment much because the detail of the fund is, I believe they're spelling it out.
Excellent, excellent. Once we get more details, I really do hope to disseminate it very, very soon. But meanwhile, maybe RHB has a lead on it. Maybe they can spill the beans.
Yeah, RHB, we are committed to grow our ESG loan book by 1 billion at the end of 2022. And in fact, I think we are one of the very, very first bank that put together renewable energy package for SME as well. Yeah, we actually introduced our renewable energy, this specifically for solar. We actually introduced that back in February 2020, right before the pandemic started. And I will invite you to participate in our future endeavor and our roadshow.
Yeah, I would actually love to do more about that. It seems that RHB Bank has already embarked on this for quite some time, of course, in line with the World Economic Forum, calling for focus on sustainable development goals. So thank you, RHB, for that effort. May you continue on moving the ESG path and get entrepreneurs on board with this grand idea of saving the planet. Now, time is running really, really short. So I tell you what, Dr. ATK, Jenny and Nang, let's go to some of the questions that we pre-picked. There's quite a few hundred actually. So this one I picked personally. Yeah, COVID-19 pandemic has widened the gap between the top and bottom companies. What can SMEs do to stay in the market? Maybe we start with Dr. ATK.
I think maybe that question should be rephrased also, Nas, because I think what has really done is, despite between the top and the bottom, obviously there are runaway successes. They are outliers in the system. But actually that major disruption, regardless of whether you've been in the market for 30 years or whether you've been in the market for 3 years, I think everybody has been brought to the common denominator. So to me, I think one good thing that the pandemic has done is made many people more of first among equals. I think in that way, we don't have to really be worried about the giants because some of the agility that the small businesses have, some of the speed of change that the small businesses have,
pivoting,
the businesses cannot do it. So I think it is, a lack of a better word, the cockroaches that survived the nuclear holocaust. I think the smaller businesses will be able to do much, much better in a situation because their resources, their capacity, and also the damage is much, much smaller. But saying that, I think using newer business model, digitalization is one big game changer, which is really like you look at, I mean, even talking about just what you mentioned just now, right? So saving the planet. I was just reading yesterday in Twitter that says $1 trillion Tesla is now more worth, more bigger than the Finland as a country itself. So there you know about people who come late. So I don't have to be worried about the big businesses now.
Well, the good part is maybe the rakyat can look forward to the Cukai Makmur that's happening. So they'll be happy, of course. Maybe not for the top guns, but I think it's a great way to build the nation. Let's move on to another question. How to grow a social enterprise or sustainability business in Malaysia? There you go. We've neglected to mention social enterprises, and I think there's a lack of focus in budget 2022 for such a business. Maybe we'll go to this one also. I think Datuk should pick up first.
There is a mention of social enterprise in the budget, Nas. There is a mention of social enterprises as a preferred entity of how businesses should be moving forward. And I think social enterprises, in some manner, is also tied to the SDGs and the ESG goals.
Yes.
And I think businesses, especially the young entrepreneurs, must look at social enterprise as one newer entity of how businesses should move forward. If you actually go back and read the budget in the page where the Minister of Finance mentions both the cooperatives and the social enterprises as one of the newer entities where they are looking at funding and also providing some incentives and perks so that businesses can actually not only have high social impact, but also make money in that process.
Yes, I see it now. Thank you very much, Doctor. Yes, so there is a clause for social enterprises to thrive, and I do hope the CGC as well as RHB Bank do keep these businesses in mind, because the impact that they give to the environment and to society is really, really important. Note that I also run a social enterprise, so that's why I'm giving some hints right here. But there are many youngsters out there, very idealistic, and I know they want to make a difference in this world. And so let's give social enterprises a chance, especially those who are making a positive change for this world. So thank you very much for the input. So let's take one more question right here. The strength of the banking sector is of paramount importance. The question arises whether the banks are sustainable in view of the moratorium extended to borrowers. The risk arises should there be an extension of the moratorium. This is an extension of the question, actually. The shorter version is, can we please extend the moratoriums? That one is for Mr. Nang. What say you, sir?
Yeah, I'm probably not qualified to answer this question, but I think let me just a short version of what is going to happen. So I think Bank Negara has been driving this, providing assistance to our borrower ever since the pandemic started, and it has not stopped, and most likely will continue in 2022 as well. So we have our auto moratorium. After our moratorium, we actually have special flexibility given to the bank so that we can continue to help our borrower. When MCO2 happened, immediately we have this targeted repayment assistance as well. And that will be available until the end of this year. And if things doesn't improve, I am sure that same flexibility can be extended into 2022. But even without the special flexibility from Bank Negara, all the banks are currently already being urged by the regulator to continue to provide help to our borrower. So just for RHB alone, we have already provided close to 20 billion of repayment assistance to all our borrower. And I do not think that this is something that we will stop. Yeah. Until everyone that needs help are being provided with help.
As an RHB customer, I thank you very much for keeping that in mind. But does the CGC share this sentiment? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's the same, Nas. We definitely do not want to give up whatever we have done thus far, right? That's number one. And secondly, I think aside from this payment, like I always mention, is that don't wait for it to end. Quickly do something so that we are not relying on only the deferment of the payment, but quickly, because we like what the Nang said, I don't think I'm also qualified to say this, because this basically is a very big question that comes from, I mean, who they are. So, but while waiting for that, I think it's best that we find alternatives as well, which is how to increase sales, capitalize. Now we open up. We are near the year end, festive season, right? We can only hope for the best.
Jenny, you should have been an entrepreneur. I mean, looking at the answers you've been giving so far, I think your positivity incorporated. I like the fact that I know as an entrepreneur, the first thing we want is money, and more money. But at the same time, I love the message that you're putting through, that we shouldn't be depending on moratoriums. We shouldn't be depending on government handouts, so on and so forth. As a businessman, as an entrepreneur, we got to stand on our own 2 feet. And whenever adversity comes, make sure entrepreneurs are ready to work for their business, to future-proof their business, and to pivot their business if necessary. And so I would love to ask one more question, but already the panelists behind me are going, that's enough time. And so I would like to thank each of our panelists for your time today. So maybe a closing statement. I've asked Mr. Yip, I've asked Jenny on moratoriums and of course their particular thoughts. So maybe a closing statement from Dr. ATK. At this point in time, can budget 2022 happen for our SMEs? Is this the year they should expand, they should consolidate? What are your thoughts?
I think 2022 is the year that we should pull out all stops, Nas, because like what Jenny mentioned, right? So we've got the fourth quarter, the last quarter, which really make a difference about trying to catch up. And while looking for a full 2022 impact. I think many SMEs, especially the micro businesses, we must bring back that discipline of repayment and all that. So while the chambers were one of those in the forefront of fighting for that moratorium, the auto moratorium, I think it's time we ease off that and start moving into terms of refinancing, restructuring our debts, and looking forward to newer business models can then sustain. And also, Naz, the other thing, right? So we keep forgetting, right? Every time there's something new on the block, we tend to look at it and say, look, 2022 budget, that's the only guiding document. Not really. Let's look at the 12th Malaysia plan for medium term and look at that shared prosperity vision thing. If you're using any of this, they must be like 2022 is now. 12th Malaysia plan is the next 5 years, and the SPV 2030 should be your 10-year plan. And I think if you pivot along those areas, like if you look at the SPV 2030, there is a very nice 15 key economic growth areas. If you really want to know where the country is heading towards to, that's where the country is heading towards to. As long as you fit into that value chain, I think you have got a story to tell for at least the next 10 years.
Excellent, which brings us to our topics for the next session. We'll be talking about digitalization and how it can pivot and save entrepreneurs out there by having a different mindset. It's just about being brave. And so thank you so much once again for that wrap-up, Dr. ATK, as well as Ms. Jenny Ho from CGC, Mr. Yip Hao Nang from RHB Bank. May you continue to do the good work you do for entrepreneurs. Thank you so much once again. Here's a round of virtual applause for you. There you go. That's virtual applause. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break right here. That I announced the end of session 1 with these wonderful panelists who shared their thoughts and visions, especially for entrepreneurs out there. Hopefully it's been useful in terms of planning what to do next. Do I pivot? Do I consolidate? Do I expand? Maybe some of the questions have been answered for you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break once again. And in 15 seconds or so, we're going to go right into session 2. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum and welcome back. And we are ready to kickstart the second session right here at SOBA Labs webinar series, How Budget 2022 can drive your business forward. So for this next session, our focus is slightly different due to our panelists. Of course, you'll see why as I introduce them to you right about now. The first panelist is Mr. Kevin Lee, Head of SME, Maxis Business. For the past 20 years, Kevin has spent his time in the banking and IT as well as telecommunications industries. He's worked in Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines and China and was responsible for a major regional project involving 13 banks during his 2-year stint in technology company Schlumberger. Kevin now manages the SME business portfolio at Maxis Business. So we welcome him to SOBA Labs webinar series. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, our next panelist is Mr. Pang Kong Chek, Chief Financial Officer of PKT Logistics Group. With over 20 years of experience in corporate accounting, finance, banking and administration, Pang is in charge of managing the financial stability and accounting best practices for the group. We welcome him on board. And last but not least, our third panelist representing entrepreneurs and SMEs is Madam Shirley Tay, the President of the Malaysian Retail Chain Association, or MRCA, and she is Sunrider International's Regional Corporate Director. With the tagline, "Powered by you, we serve better," that's her slogan for her tenure as President of MRCA. She's by the people, for the people, and we'll onboard them into our platform right about now. Just give us a few seconds to get everything in order, and we'll be with you in just a few moments. Welcome, dear panelists. Welcome. We have Madam Shirley Tay from MRCA. We have Mr. Pang Kong Chek from PKT Logistics Group's Berhad, the CFO. And we have Mr. Kevin Lee from Maxis Business. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. If you've been paying attention to the first session, we focused more on financing, funding, as well as the direction of Budget 2022, which leans towards sustainable development goals, as well as ESG, or environment, social, as well as government factors. Yeah. So at this point in time, I want to focus a bit more. Well, since Kevin is here, we talk about digitalization, we talk about pivoting your business. But first and foremost, we should be highlighting what are the problems on the ground and how Budget 2022 has the potential to solve these problems. First and foremost, I'd like to direct the questions to Madam Shirley Tay, President of MRCA. Of course, you are the President of how many members? I've forgotten. I've read the profile, but there's thousands of members. At this point in time, what works for you for Budget 2022? What is your biggest concern? What is it that you like and what is it that you didn't like? Madam, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Nas, for having me in this platform. The questions about what I like will be the continuing incentive and financial assistance given to SMEs. One very big incentive that I'd like to mention, which I think we are very happy, is the wage subsidy program. Because under the targeted wage subsidy program, 600 million would be used to benefit, I think, 26,000 employers and 300,000 employees, right? And the government, with this umbrella of Jamin Kerja Keluarga Malaysia, will create another 600,000 jobs. I think it is very important at this moment. It's because everyone knows that SMEs are really, in shortage of workers. So hopefully with that, it will help to create more job opportunities. And another thing that I really like is that there's this incentive given to Malaysian, to hire jobless people. And company will get like a subsidy of 20% of workers' salaries for 6 months, and another 30% for the following 6 months, for people who would get at least, 1,005 ringgit a month. That would encourage companies to hire jobless people in the market. And I think the government is also looking at training up young talents, because they are giving an incentive of 900. In the past, it was 800, for 6 months for school leavers and graduates. If you hire them, you get this incentive. And one thing I also like is the My Step initiative. Hopefully that will help us to get more people to apply for jobs. The question you asked about what I don't like. I feel that I'm a little disappointed with the rental subsidies. as I was saying just now, we actually had submitted our proposals to Ministry of Finance, right? We feel that presently the thing that's really affecting the SMEs are the huge outstanding renters, which are owing to the landlords. I don't know what will happen is because right now, every one of us is protected by the COVID-19 Act. Somehow that temporary measure will end in coming December, and we still don't know what will happen. And we, both parties can actually institute legal action. So I was hoping that the government will look at some direct subsidies for rental relief, where tenants will be given like some months of support to pay the landlord. In the market, sometimes some landlords are really considerate. They do give support, but there are some who are not so kind. They are waiting for this passing of the COVID-19 Act to take legal action, I suppose. So,
but I don't get it, madam. Yeah, I have to step in right here. SMEs and landlords, they're like Malay like to say, bagai isi dengan kuku. You cannot live without each other. It must be a symbiotic relationship. So I don't understand this mentality of landlords. Here's the thing. It's also stated in the budget 2020 special tax exemption for building or commercial unit owners who give at least 30% rental discount. So they want to claim the tax exemption, but they're not translating it to their tenants. I don't understand this mentality. Would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, but the 30% is actually a tax incentive on deduction of tax. It's not really a direct subsidies towards renter. Like if you owe the landlord many months of renter, it doesn't translate into that. What the government is simply doing is to give the 30% to the whoever giving, a rental subsidies to the tenants. And if you really translate that into value, I don't think it is very significant. It's not really helping much, in my opinion. I mean, other than many factors that I'm happy, this is one aspect that I guess I'm not too happy about.
Yeah. I think so in terms of when we talk about SMEs and also the relationship they have with landlords, they're most probably for micro and small business owners, this is probably the biggest operating cost for them. And for them not to get any relief whatsoever, I think it's something the government really has to look into. You're right. It's something that's probably been overlooked. But good stuff right there where we talk about the 2 billion allocation to continue wage subsidy programs, as you said earlier, and the targeted wage subsidies for employers in tourism to have who have seen their income reduced by at least 30%, and the 85 million special assistance to 20,000 registered tour operators. You see this as something positive especially for MRCA members?
Very, because somehow tourism and retail industries are interconnected, right? This huge support to tourism is really great. I feel that when you encourage tourists to come in, I know that right now we can't do so, but there's a certain extent of local tourists, going around right now because of the lifting of the interstate travel. So that would help, retail business a great deal. But I do not think that retail businesses can rebound to where they were before the pandemic until and unless we get all the international tourists to come in. I guess we all have to wait a little while. So this 1.6 million, being given to the tourism industry is amazing in my opinion. Yeah, I really like that. And in addition to that, I think what the government is doing right, in my opinion, is the 33 million to boost the production and purchase of local products, right? And there's another 250 million allocated for Shopping Malaysia online and e-commerce onboarding. I feel that it is imperative. It is an important feature to be incorporated in the budget. And that was something that I'm very happy about.
Excellent. You're speaking about the 250 million allocated for Shop Malaysia Online. For entrepreneurs out there who don't know, it's a national initiative, yeah? And for entrepreneurs who are worth their salt, you should already know about Shop Malaysia Online. If you haven't, Google it right now and be a part of it. Be a part of this change. And also, part of the 250 million is for Go e-commerce onboarding. Now, this is a program by MDEC, if I'm not mistaken, also to encourage entrepreneurs to go online. So the help is already there. The grants are already there. It's up to the entrepreneur to plan your work your plan, and ask for it. I mean, for entrepreneurs to actually expect these funds to come to you on a silver platter, I mean, that's a bit too much to ask. As entrepreneurs, we should be stepping up and taking the bull by the horns, yeah, Madam Shirley?
Yes.
But when we talk about digitalization, now this is where we go towards Kevin. Now, Kevin Lee with Maxis Business. I understand that Maxis actually disseminates government funds and grants in their stead. And I know you have many programs as well. So the SME digitalization grant scheme is going to be increased in budget 2022, 200 million with 50 million for Bumiputra micro entrepreneurs in rural areas. What do you think of this shot in the arm?
Hi, Nas. Well, as we all know, digitalization is very, very important for Malaysian SME. I think that was last 2 years or 1.5 years was a real game changer. I think we have seen that the market has been even out as is an even playing ground, because digitalization in Malaysia has started way earlier. I think started 5-6 years ago when we started to see company doing it. But as usual, Malaysia has been a very conducive business environment for many years. I think we all know that's why you see a lot of entrepreneurs in Malaysia, that it's easy to start a business. The barrier entry is low, and to be able to sustain a decent business operation or revenue is actually not too difficult for Malaysian business. So that's why digitalization has taken a backseat role in the past many years, until last 2 years when market has forced everyone into digitalizations. So we have actually started this partnership with MDEC and MOF since last year, helping the government to reach out to Malaysia SME to bring them on board on this government grant. I think this is a very good initiative. It's actually targeting to help up to 100,000 Malaysian business, primarily the small one, to kickstart their digitalization journey. Okay, so I'm very happy that you have the under budget 22 has been continue with added budget now to 200 million. We have seen the uptake even this year. That to just share with you a small number, MAICCI has been a key partner with MDEC in driving this initiative, and so far I think we have helped more than 15,000 Malaysian SME until this year to kick off and start some of the digitalization journey. You name it, from the front end digitalization, which is very crucial this year, especially during the lockdown. Whether it's a solution to help any business to go on internet e-commerce, set up a small e-commerce platform to start to do some digital marketing investment, and as simple as a retail or a F&B business to try to put their point of sales connected to the internet, so they can start to put what you want to sell online as an online platform. So I think this has probably one of the highest take up in the digitalization solution this year.
Do you see a lot of micro and small players pick up the pace when it comes to digitalization? I've met many who I now have email, so I'm digitalized already. Maybe some are still unclear on the concept. So when they come and see you, what's the biggest hurdle that you have to overcome?
I think digitalization for Malaysian SME, let's take Malaysia, the two different type of SME. One is the mid and large SME. Take example, these are the typical company. They have an IT department, or at least they have IT guys hire and work for a company to plan for all their ICT investment. They're probably in the better shape where they know what to invest, they know what technology to adopt. It's a smaller guy. If you take a Malaysian SME, out of the 900,000 SME, 80% are actually the small and micro.
Yep.
Okay, so you say more than 500, 600,000 of Malaysian SME, they're small, and put it this way, they don't have anyone who know IT in their company. So they like the concept. Okay, from what we have known, engaging to a lot of SME who come forward with us, they like the concept. They know they need to do it. For retail business, they know they need to start to sell online. For F&B, they need to know they need to start to do delivery rather than waiting for people to come online. For those who are not the F&B in the service industry or manufacturing, they know they need to enable all their people to work remotely. They need to be able to move all their operation digitally to the cloud. Everyone knows this, but they don't know how to start. So starting point is very difficult because these are all technical technology. So what we have done over the last few years differently is we have. I mean, everyone knows that telco. Traditionally, we are the telco. We provide connectivity. So we have stepped up our support. We have started to collaborate with all the world class technology provider like Microsoft, like Amazon, AWS, all the cloud providers, Cisco. We have also started working with a lot of Malaysian service provider, a digital solution provider, to try to bring things on board. So we can provide end-to-end digital solution for any Malaysian SME who plan to just kick off the first step into digitalization. And we are talking about anything from digital marketing, point of sales, e-commerce, to IoT, even your logistic and track and trace, track your vehicle, to remote working, digital working, remote working solutions. So, and just mention on this SME digitalization grant, government is actually allocating this 200 million to support company who can claim up to 5,000. It's not a big amount, okay? It's not a big amount for the big organization where they have the SAG, the Smart Automation Grant, to tap on. It's for a small company who can start the first step. Example, you want to start to do digital marketing, 5,000 grant with 5,000 of one-on-one, 10,000 is enough for you to start something, to learn something. You want to start something on point of sale, you can start. You want to start something from remote collaboration working solution, it's all there. So I think those are the complete range of solution that we have brought on board in our offering.
Do the programs also involve internal systems as well, such as enterprise resource planning and so on and so forth, and not just
yes. Yes, it's also include, if you look at this digitalization, it also include the internal process, including accounting, HR, procurement, ERP. So these are all the solution that you can kickstart leveraging on this government grant, and we are providing those solutions together with a lot of Malaysian local solution partners. So I think I do encourage all Malaysian SME come forward. Although Maxis is one of the key players in here, but it's not the only Maxis. I think a lot of solution provider in the market are providing this solution to help Malaysian SME to at least start their digitalization journey. If you have not started yet over the last 18 months, you can't wait.
Oh yeah, Kevin's so humble, and I know Maxis has been doing quite a lot working together with government agencies like MAICCI and MIDA to get entrepreneurs together and to improve their business process, to pivot if necessary. And this knowledge is really, really essential. So I see it as telcos being that one-stop center for small and medium entrepreneurs, especially micro as well, to kickstart. There's a lot of questions here going, how do I digitalize? Is there funding for digitalization? And I'm quite surprised there's so many questions on this, because I think that's one of the biggest game changers for budget 2022. So we're going to be asking asking PKT Logistics to share their experience. We've got the Chief Financial Officer right here, Mr. Pang. Thank you for spending some time with us, Mr. Pang. So I want to pick up from what Kevin has shared quite earlier in terms of disseminating grants. I think for a company the size of PKT Logistics, there's another fund that you can actually tap on, which is the 100 million for smart automation matching grants to benefit about 200 manufacturing and services companies, and that would include PKT Logistics. So maybe you can share with us your digital transformation journey. Where do you decide to start, and which segment of your business did you start first? Oh, Mr. Pang, you're muted, Mr. Pang. No worries. We'll start again.
Yeah. Hi, Nas. Sorry, I was muted. Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear, sir.
All right. Thank you. Well, actually, I would say that PKT Logistics Group has been established for 47 years. So before the pandemic, we are actually, to a certain extent, digitally ready, or as like we put in certain basic processes and whatnot, into the system. We engage in the ERP system to help out in terms of our resources planning and also our warehousing activities. So what happened is, like, of course, when the pandemic hit, that actually fastened the process of digitalizations, whereby actually we undertook a transformation program, and during that period, I think was started 1.5 years ago, to actually come up with a plan to actually tackle the current environment as in the pandemic that actually doesn't allow people to go to work physically and has to done via this remotely. So I think especially in terms of the product, many would think that logistics segment actually not have impacted by the pandemic, but then in fact for PKT Logistics, we were impacted somehow because then our customer were not able to operate during that time. So then we actually come up with a 4 major diversification in terms of the products, and of course in terms of the digital and geographical. I don't want to go too far away. I think especially is the product itself. As you know that logistic is our we have been doing that, but then we also expand ourselves into educations line, and also more importantly the e-commerce segment. So that is one of the part of and diversify our business.
Wow, talk about pivoting, yeah. Is this because of the pandemic that you've decided to expand in this way?
Yes, you are right. You see, because we feel that then because traditionally we would be rely too heavily on one particular segment, so that's why we decided that we have to expedite this particular process to actually capture other segment of client, so that then we are more readily available. In the next few years, should then there is a crisis coming, so that was the plan that we undertook. And of course, more importantly, is the digitalization revenue that we set at 20%. This benchmark for ourselves to be achieved by 2025 to derive our revenue via online. So that is an important step for us to achieve.
I like the fact that you've put milestones for yourself. That's one thing many entrepreneurs, even at a micro level, you can actually set these milestones as a matter of pacing yourself, as a matter of benchmarking yourself to others. I mean, to actually have a plan to where you want to go. Unfortunately, many entrepreneurs fail to do this, to set targets for yourself. So 20% in 2025, is it an achievable target, or was it something you took up from the sky? We must reach this number.
Well, actually, of course, then I started from a very big revenue plan, which is which we dissect into a smaller segment. So I would say that it's definitely achievable, because then see what happened there. We already started the journey of digitalizations. What happened is I would say that we started from a small step in digitalizing our internal working process. What happened is we deploy this AI or this robotic system into our custom brokerage declaration system, whereby we actually managed to not only reduce the resources required to perform a similar activities, but also we can actually deploy the relevant resources to a more value-creating activities that will actually propel PKT to achieve this particular target.
So, I like the steps that you've made as well, because also, again, entrepreneurs should be realizing that the steps towards IR 4.0 or Industrial Revolution 4.0 has gone hand in hand with the pandemic. I'd say the pandemic was the catalyst for PKT to actually move ahead with the digitalization plan towards IR 4.0. Would you agree?
Yes. I think important is always to start from a small steps, and then slowly, once you success in doing that, then slowly you will roll it out to other areas as well. So I think this will be a very key case study for all other SME that is planning to digitalize, be it a business process or be it internal process. That is very important, because then you might be thinking that it will be too difficult to do, or even for those clients it will be too difficult to get. But then just trust me, it's not that difficult. You just need to start from some small step, identify those easier area that you can do, and then just talk to one of the government agency, like we just mentioned about MDEC or even MAICCI. For ours one, actually we go under MAICCI. You'll be surprised that MAICCI actually that is initially just covered manufacturing. Now they actually extend this automation grant to services sector like us. So that will be an important message from here.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that very important message. Yeah. Moving forward to Kevin as well. Now that we've sort of listened to Mr. Pang reveal his digital journey and also making sure that they utilize the grants that are available. Do you see people who come to see you, Kevin? Yeah. You've explained before that you guide them in terms of utilizing the grant, but the strategy here, a lot of entrepreneurs come in. Like Mr. Pang said, take small steps. Some entrepreneurs, I don't know what to do. Some entrepreneurs say, I want to be this. Give me this now. So the end game is very, very important to the entrepreneur. What are your thoughts on that?
My thought is, see, digitalization is a journey. Okay, so although I say that the last 18 months is, it has, I think the pandemic has sort of wiped out any organization. It's a real advantage whether you are very successful or you have been very prominent, because digitalization give everyone the same footage to start. I have seen new business set up just over the last 12 months, new business out from nowhere. They are able to run. They are able to run the business within 6-7 months to a turnover of $500,000 a month. Example.
Wow.
So there are many of this example. This is a proof point of how business start to leverage on digitalization, because the main thing is every single consumer behavior has changed for very, very big extent over the last 18 months. So when consumer behaviors change, any business out there, whether big or small, if you can just leverage on digital technology and move forward. I give you an example. If you notice last year, the first year of pandemic, almost any business, if you started to go to Facebook or IG to start to do some digital marketing to sell something, your business boom, your digital business boom, 100-200% up. So it really depends on, like what Pang is saying. He also have a vision to see how his group is leveraging on digital. But I must, probably I give you 2 points for all SME to look at. One is digitalization is a journey, it's not the end. So you got to start somewhere. So if you have someone like Mr. Pang, the organization is quite advanced. They have started digitalization. They continue to digitalize their internal processes, and to the certain level start to apply AI, robotic, like what he has explained. That will help his business to be very, very competitive in a global scale. So the second point is, don't ever think that after pandemic things will go back to normal, go back to pre-pandemic. It's not going to happen this way. First, I mentioned customers, consumer spending behavior has changed. That's one. The second most biggest push is the pandemic has actually opened up border, because you look at last 18 months, global company are all coming in. If you're from e-commerce, you start to know that everyone start to buy things from internet, and some people realize that, example, you go online to buy something from China, you probably get it faster than buying from Malaysia online. So
true.
It's true or not?
Yep.
Before pandemic, you try to think about, hey, I want to buy something from online. Hey, buy from local platform easier. Buy from China 3 weeks, 2 weeks. Now you're surprised. You buy something from China, from Korea, within 3 days or 5 days, it gets to your doorstep. So something that all Malaysian business have to really think of is the globalization is pushing in. So there is a pandemic as a push, but there is IR 4.0 and 5G as a pull. Very soon, the business market is not just locally, but globally, will depends on who digitalize their business faster and who are able to capitalize on this technology. It started from the IR3, which is automation, robotic automation. Now 4.0 talk about cloud, AI, big data, IoT. It's all coming in. So if you have wherever you are in your journey, whether you have started like PKT, they are quite advanced, or you have not even started, you're just starting today. Doesn't matter because the journey is an ongoing journey, because digitalization is not, like I say, it's not an end. It is continuous journey. I even give you an example. MAICCI as an organization, we started our digitalization 7-8 years ago. This year, we are continuously digitalizing some of the new processes. And and leveraging on digitalization to now harvest a lot of big data to make better decisions. So it never stops.
That's the point that entrepreneurs should pick up on. If a giant like Maxis continues to take small steps forward in terms of technology, well, the entrepreneur that suddenly uses the shotgun approach, I'm glad PKT also use the same approach, only investing into technologies that will definitely bring a short or medium-term impact to improve their business. Certain entrepreneurs I know, I got this money, I spend it, shotgun, boom, pay for everything. And then next thing you know, in 2 years, we've got to upgrade. And then we've got the metaverse that's coming up right now. So the digitalization is a journey and not a destination. That's something we really should be picking up from. And so we look at PKT scaling in small modular ways. And here's the thing, that's for a giant like PKT. So we move back to Madam Shirley. Is this viable for all players from micro all the way to medium? What are your thoughts on scaling SMEs one step at a time?
I do agree what Kevin was saying just now, that digitalization is actually a journey. It is important for especially the smaller ones. They are not like the medium and large company where they have the full, equipped team of IT to help you to transform and innovate. For the smaller players, maybe they should start on a modular basis. You can start out with something that you feel comfortable with, and then you can do by phase by phase. What I like to mention about the importance of digitalization is also the avenue to open up new business structure. If I may quote an example, for instance, our member Seng Heng, right? I mean, everybody knows Seng Heng as an electrical company. They sell electrical equipment, but recently they have done amazingly well in transforming their business into delivery. They call it the S-food delivery. I feel that sometimes they don't realize that it can help them. Even Air Asia, all of us know that they fly, but then they are now into F&B. They're also into delivery platform. So in that sense, digitalization does help companies to maybe open up their mind a little broader to see other opportunities, other avenues as well. But I don't believe that though digitalization is very helpful. It doesn't replace everything. Nas, I got to say, especially companies like us who are in retailing, human to human interaction, connectivity, and engagement cannot be totally replaced. I think that soft element in terms of human touch should still plays an important factor for retail businesses to be successful. Yeah.
Absolutely right. You can't lose that human element. Although we digitize ourselves, I think that's a story for another way. The gap that continues to grow when we talk about digitalization. But as far as entrepreneurs are concerned, change or die. That's the mantra by one particular guru I just saw on YouTube. Change or die, especially in this global pandemic. And so we're going to close this session on a good positive note. We look at the case study right here in terms of PKT Logistics Group improving themselves, pivoting themselves into education and so on and so forth. I mean, my hat's off to you. It's not an easy decision to make, but it can be done. And so to our research online with the topics that we've talked about earlier, you definitely can get a head start, especially speak to telcos like Maxis, speak to agencies like MIDA and MAICCI, and all these people have grants specifically for entrepreneurs to expand or consolidate. So we're going to end it with one last question for everyone, yeah? With these grants that are available through Budget 2022, should SMEs expand their business or consolidate their business? Maybe we start with Madam Shirley.
Okay, in my opinion, I think before a company consider whether you consolidate, you expand, or you reduce the size of your operation, you should really look at the strength of your company. What had happened in the past 20 months? What is your company's position? I think crisis management and recovery plans have to be in place. I'm of the opinion that this establishment got to know the factors that are affecting them. If you're talking about, threats here, if you are already falling out of the market, right, in terms of competition, why do you bother going back, right? But if you see that your business is such that you're emerging, there are new opportunities being posted to you to expand, then by all means do that. But I believe that for year 2022, most companies will try to consolidate first. I think they got to first recoup what they have lost. Many SMEs have lost a lot. I don't believe that there are actually 900 over 1,000 SMEs right now. We can't be sure of the exact number of how many are in existence. Many
I
have
do have
actually
some new
lost.
statistics. I think that
Oh, is
number has
it?
been reduced by 30%.
Yeah, I guess it's about that, probably
30%.
30-40% have closed down. It's sad, but I guess it's okay. Sometimes it is important for companies to start looking at maybe new business venture. If they don't want to do so, they still want to continue to do what they have been doing, then look at other ways of improving, what other competitors are doing. Because you see a lot of other countries like foreigners, some of them actually recover from the pandemic a little faster than us. They open the economy a little faster than Malaysia. Look at these companies as an example. I was told that, if I may quote an example, Jo Malone is a good brand to quote. In terms of fragrance, everybody think that you really need to smell the fragrance in order for you to buy, but it's not true. Jo Malone actually launched this online platform. Apparently their sales actually gone up a great deal. So it doesn't mean that you would just look at cutting down your resources. If you can't get financing, yes, by all means, find ways to get financing. I know that a lot of bankers, especially under the government now, is making it a little easier for smaller companies to get funding, right? They are making the cost of borrowing a little cheaper. Then the government in this budget also came up with a lot of ways to support these smaller companies. Otherwise, you just have to emerge again, right, from the quagmire. You got to, the light is there now. So go ahead and try to improve.
It's a practical answer indeed, because this question has been asked repeatedly on the forums as well. Do we consolidate? Do we expand? So I think in the end, it is about the entrepreneur, their risk appetite, the grants that they may or may not be able to procure in terms of even surviving the post-pandemic particular time period, the business that they already have. So how to come back, it really is down to the entrepreneur. All that we know now is there are many, many avenues for you to gain your financing. Kevin has spoken about it. Mr. Pang has also spoken about it and implemented some of the grant money into improving their business. And if they can, I'm very, very sure that you can as well. So speaking of which, we've chosen 3 questions to ask our panelists. Hopefully you can spend a little bit more time. I know we're a little bit over time here, so thank you so much for spending this a bit of extra time with us. We go to the first question. How can an SME weigh cost and benefit towards digitalization at the same time working towards cost cutting for cash flow? Well, maybe this is something for Kevin.
Hi, Nas. Okay, rather than cost cutting, okay, I think all business want to save costs because cost cutting is because cost. Yes, I will probably relate this to the earlier questions on the consolidation. I think my advice to all business is we know that pandemic is causing a lot of damage, and that's where all business need to now learn to be agile. Agile means you can scale up, you can scale down whenever it's needed, because I think that is going to be how the world move forward. It's about scalability and agile. So to stay agile, it means all business need to start to think about your core competency. So you need to consolidate your core competency. Means when you talk about cost cutting, it means any area that you don't think is your core, it belongs to core competency. Don't spend money on this. So I think that is a cost cutting. Your core competency don't cut. You're gonna invest. This is where you will differentiate. At the same time, think the second word is partnership. Think about partnership. Okay, you look at last 18 months. Although we suffer, I must say that Malaysian business are very creative and innovative. You look at the last 18 months, there are a lot of new, business model, new business coming into the market. So there are a lot of things that in the past for SME cannot be outsourced. They have to do it yourself because nobody's doing it. Now rethink again is all possible. I mean, talk about instant delivery, courier, logistic. In the past, if you think about, hey, if I want to do a delivery business, I have to go and set up my logistic, deliver and things. But today, I don't need. I can integrate to my e-commerce platform to maybe more than 3 or 4 logistic company, and it's all there. You talk about central kitchen for F&B. You know, in the past, everyone is trying to build their own kitchen because right now, because a lot of retail business or F&B business are seeing that their business on the from a dine-in business, they have pivoted into doing delivery, packaging, canned food, cold frozen food. So there is a new trend that a lot of new business out there, they now started to go out and say, hey, we provide central kitchen. So for any business out there, think about consolidating all your cash flow, cost cutting into your core competency. That's one. And start to look at what are the new possibility, because they are not new business model, new enabler in the market, and that will help any traditional business to start to now expand and grow.
And hopefully it is in line with your core competency. If not, that's going to be difficult as well. Thank you very much for the answer, Kevin. Really appreciate that. We move on to another question. I think there's time for another one. What is your opinion on supply chain issues faced by retailers which are not addressed by Budget 2022? So maybe this is something for Madam Shirley to answer. Supply chain issues.
Yeah, well, I guess of late there has been a lot of talk about disruption of supply chain, right? Of course, we're disappointed because of the fact of the disruption. Cost of material has also gone up, and there has been a lot of delay in terms of our members getting their merchandise and all those. I feel that the government can do something better. Like, for instance, if even big companies like PKT, can be like a role model to give, suggestions and work hand in hand with the government to see how such issues can be resolved. And the opportunity to other companies to come into this field is also important. Sometimes when people look at supply chain, people may think that it only involves importation and exportation, but it's not necessarily the case, because if you're talking about supply chain, it is actually every aspect of the how the merchandise move from one point to another, eventually to the hand of the consumer. So I feel that if the government can work in a very targeted manner to find out what's the problem, Nas, something very interesting that really links to the disruption of supply chain is also, short-handedness. You realize that the country is in a huge, dilemma in terms of shortage of manpower, correct? And I feel that something ought to be done in terms of liberalization of foreign workers. Without that, I think we will not be able to rebound, and perform like before. There are a lot of jobs that the foreigners would not do. We know the 3Ds, right? So no matter how much you feel that you want to revise the local minimum wage for Malaysian to do it, a lot of them won't pick up those jobs. So there should be a balance, a check and balance. Hopefully the government can look into that. And that is actually one aspect that will apply the supply. Will affect the supply chain as well, I feel. So that issue needs to be resolved.
Thank you very much. Although at this point in time, I don't know what else the Budget 2022 can help in terms of solving this problem. And I do think, Mr. Pang from PKT Logistics, I think you might agree with me that I think shipping costs have also gone up in terms of disrupting the supply chain. Either people cannot afford it or it's just too expensive. So maybe it's a pause. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's a rise of 700% in terms of shipping costs.
Yeah, the rise of the shipping costs is substantial, especially those we are talking about US, Asia kind of route. But then that couldn't be helped much, because then that was entirely caused by the pandemics, that causing the imbalance in terms of supply and demand, in terms of the containers. But then I would like to touch on Ms. Shirley's comment in terms of the this manpower, especially in terms of the logistics sectors, that we can definitely do something about it, especially organization like us that whereby we have educations. That one of our major objective actually is to train the next generation logisticians, in order to actually power Malaysia to be the Asian logistic hub, so that then they are equipped with the necessary skill and the knowledge, and more importantly, the industrial focus or driven education that will be very helpful in propelling us, to this particular objective. So
thank you very much.
Yeah.
So these particular two aspects that we should be focusing on, manpower as well. So let's hope we can empower Malaysians to pick up these jobs and to fill up that vacuum that's here at this point in time. God willing, of course. We got one more question to ask our panelists. This one's for Mr. Pang. Is PKT affected by the 51% Bumi ownership rule imposed by the government? If yes, how will PKT tackle this issue going forward? Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
That caught me by surprise. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I mean the history a bit. I think we have been trying to tackle this particular issue, of course, to have a constant engagement with the relevant ministry, in terms of the Bumi equities issues. All right. But I think I just want to borrow my CEO's word that, you see, not only like we should be looking at this 51% Bumi issue, we should be talking about liberalization of the whole logistics sector, just to create more competition and invite more players, into this segment in order for us to grow to a bigger cake, so that then everyone can enjoy on that. That I think that is more important, just like how Singapore's they have done it. You see, they don't have any restriction, So what would I say that rather than looking at the 51%, we should actually liberalize the whole sector, liberalize the ownership, especially when it comes to this equity ownership.
Wow, that is the real Keluarga Malaysia sentiment coming from PKT Logistics. Well done. Respect to Mr. Pang. We've got one more question before we wrap up our segment. Let's take a look at this question. How can government aid and loans filter down to small businesses like us and not just lip service? I think the gist of it here is the dissemination of funds and how fast it can be disbursed, because people are in trouble, cash flows are in trouble. So even though you are eligible for the grant, sometimes it might come a little bit too late. So who would like to take this question? Maybe Madam Shirley? Oh, you're on mute, Madam.
I'm sorry. Okay, I think the way to help the smaller players to get the grant would be first to understand what grants they're applying for. My experience is that a lot of them don't even know what grants they can apply, right? So this is where the help from an association comes in, because we are conducting a lot of webinars, training sessions, hand-holding kind of programs for them to know what sort of grants they can apply. If you look at wage subsidy program, what I like to talk about that is that at the beginning, when people did not understand how to go about doing it, there were a lot of complaints, but actually the procedure is not really that tough. Sometimes you need to really deal with the person in charge. In this case, it's Percasual, right? So if you go to them and then really voice out to them the trouble, they are actually approachable. And I think the system is in place, for people to apply for grant. And in fact, you can also get the officer to conduct webinars and training to help people to apply for grant. So I'm just talking about one aspect of it. In the case of digitalization, I'm sure, Kevin can share later, because I have had a discussion with Kevin separately in the past. Kevin was saying that you can even go to MAICCI, to get them to help you. I mean, they're familiar with the type of grants to apply. The thing is that you must first know what you're entitled to. So that's where the role of even your accountants would come in. If they can share such knowledge with you, and if you go through, be patient, step by step, I think you will be able to enjoy the grant. There are, of course, companies who are not qualified, but please look at the criteria first and understand the type of grants available. It was very interesting that at one point when we were having some dialogues with the government officials, they were saying that these grants are ready, but people are not coming here to apply. So I think it's ignorance, right? So if we can have more seminars, maybe next you should conduct another one, different
My
type
goodness.
of grants to apply, and then that would be good. No, seriously, I feel
Yeah, that would be good.
knowledge is very important. So
Absolutely.
yeah, not
Knowledge.
just the staffs of the organization. Sometimes the stakeholders themselves, the owners themselves must also find out. Then they can encourage the staff to go ahead and apply for such grants. So yeah, I feel that with better understanding, we should take advantage of the budget that the government has come up with, right?
For sure. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, I mean, you
Yes.
can't expect to just, hey, I want some money and money will fall from the sky.
And you don't know where it comes from. So you have to go after that.
So I like the fact that you've brought in Kevin into the conversation as well, because I think Kevin is also familiar. You are dispersing funds from the SME digitalization grant scheme. So do you see this happening?
I see two things. One, I see is mindset of Malaysian SME. We just to share a little bit of experience, we started this partnership with government, with MDEC since last year, since end last year, trying to help to reach out to SME. So first learning we always have is a lot of SME first their mindset is that, if the government grant, I'm not qualified, or it's going to be very, very difficult to apply. So it's a mindset. So they don't even step up. So the awareness is very, very low, like what Madam Shirley has mentioned. Awareness, education is important. I know government has tried to work with a lot of private sector to reach out to Malaysia SME. So there's a lot of webinar that government has driven, especially MDEC. MDEC has been doing this a lot. So I think for SME who are listening, first change your mindset. From my personal experience working with government over the past over a year on this SME digitalization grant, government is very, very keen to disperse. So that's where the partnership of what we have, Maxis have worked with government is for SME digitalization grant. You don't need to walk into any government office. You just come to Maxis. We will help you to apply and get it approved, and here you go. So you don't even need to wait. So of course, for the bigger SME, besides the SME digitalization grant, there's also this SAG, the Smart Automation Grant. That's meant for the bigger SME company like PKT Logistic for digital automation. Whether you want to do robotic, you want to do ERP, the government has I think they have renewed SAG for another 100 million this year.
100 million, yep.
100 million. So every company, if you're looking at automation, you're entitled up to I think $1 million per company. Yeah. So they are also, first, I would encourage us SME approach MAIDA on this, because MAIDA is a forefront driver in helping SME, and they are also MAIDA can actually help you to assess your readiness for automation, and then you can engage a consultant to come in to help you to structure that. So I think the helps are out there. I mean, the message of all business out there is helps are out there. Change your mindset. If you don't think that this is available and you're eligible, think again, because if you look at the budget 22, there are a lot of government funds are there to help business to revive and restart. So
exactly.
Make good use of them. Don't shy away.
Don't shy away. Shirley's message and Kevin's message hand in hand. Jangan takut bertanya, kata orang Melayu ya. Ukur baju di badan sendiri, consolidate yourself, analyze yourself, your strengths and weaknesses. I think Madam Shirley also reiterated the importance of a SWOT analysis for you to know where you are, so that you know the right kind of help that you can ask. Next is to telcos such as Maxis and so forth, especially if you have a digitalization plan in the works. And so with that, we close off session 2. It has been an absolute pleasure to speak to all of you today. Madam Shirley, you've highlighted some very important issues, especially on rental. as well as the workers' issues. Kevin on digitalization, wonderful the work that Maxis is doing to empower entrepreneurs out there. And to PKT Logistics, Mr. Pang, thank you for being a shining beacon for other entrepreneurs to follow. With the sharing that you've done today, many entrepreneurs out there, doesn't matter if you're micro all the way to medium, there's a lesson right there that you can learn. Plan your work and work your plan. So thank you, Mr. Pang, for your participation. Ladies and gentlemen, I humbly apologize if there's so many more questions that we simply have no time to pick up. I think we've already overrun by quite a bit. This is the longest lab session ever, simply because so much participation. And so, again, it of course inspired by Madam Shirley, Mr. Pang and Kevin. So hopefully we'll see you again in the next session. If we ever get the chance to see you again, it'll be my absolute pleasure to moderate the session. Once again, thank you so very much. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we close off Lab 5 for Star Outstanding Business Awards webinar sessions. We come to the end, and we'd like to inform that all our Star Outstanding Business Awards submissions is open, and we've extended the submission deadline to the 26th of November 2021. So last but not least, let's have a round of virtual applause for all our panelists. Thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break for 15 seconds. We'll be back to wrap things up right here. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your participation, and hopefully entrepreneurs out there have taken quite a few notes. I've been furiously writing a few things down myself, simply because of the fact post-pandemic, we need to change to survive, whether it comes to digitalization, when it comes to pivoting your business, reinventing your processes, whatever that needs to be done. As the Avengers put it, whatever it takes. And so at the end of this webinar, once again, a friendly reminder, our Star Outstanding Business Award submission is open, and we have extended the submission deadline to 26th of November 2021. We understand we are in the midst of recovering from a pandemic. Many businesses out there who want to take this as a marketing exercise and so on and so forth, but simply there's no time and so on and so forth. And so SOBA has decided to extend the submission deadline to 26th of November 2021. And so to learn more about it, please do scan the QR code that's on the screen right now and learn more about SOBA online applications, or you can visit www.soba.com.my. There you are, ladies and gentlemen. All good things must come to an end. I'm Nazruddin Rahman signing off, but this page will still remain live to guide you on SOBA online entries processes. And if you have any questions on SOBA applications, please drop your inquiries in the question and answer box, or you can email us at soba@thestar.com.my. The SOBA Help Desk team is ready to answer your queries. And before you leave, do spend a couple of minutes to complete the poll. It's a friendly gesture, of course, looking at the fact that so much has been learned today. Please do spend a couple of minutes to complete the poll. Your feedback really does mean a lot for us, especially when we're taking all that data to serve you better and give you the best experience at our future events. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'm Nazruddin Rahman. Assalamualaikum, signing off for SOBA.